G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome to the patch 1.45 dev server. This is the second video in the sequence, and this time I'm going to fly out a couple of the new planes. Now I did this video as a second part because I had to do away with the live commentary. When the test server came up last night, it came up at about 1:45 my time. By the time I was done with just the recording, it was past 3 AM, and I was slowly losing concentration the whole way through the videos. So by the time I got to the test flights, I was starting to get incoherent. So I've done away with that. We're going straight to a post-commentary recording and my overview of the aircraft. Now, needless to say, the aircraft, all the flight models you're about to see, these are on the dev server, so they are subject to change at any time. What we see here may not be what we get on the live server, but it will give us a fairly good idea of what we're looking at with each aircraft. So, let's get to it. So first up, we have the F2H Banshee. Now this is it's a bloody nice looking aircraft, to be honest. It is the bigger brother of the Panther, much larger wingspan. I did say in the last video that I was a little concerned with how its wing break is going to go, especially after flying another large wing aircraft recently, the Venom. So let's go find out. Now this one, obviously twin-engined. This should lead to some pretty good acceleration, but it is a very, very, very heavy aircraft. It comes in at just under 10 tons when it's combat loaded, so it is a big monster of a plane. The power plants on the Banshee are Westinghouse J34WE34 turbojets. We're looking at about 3,250 pounds of thrust a piece, so we're looking at a combined total of 6,500. Just passing 250 kilometers an hour by the end of the runway. I needed a little bit of flaps to get myself over the trees at the end, and that's not overly surprising, using the entire length of that runway. The Pearl Harbor runway, due to its width, is deceptively short, and with a 9.5 ton loaded weight, short takeoffs are not to be expected. So holding 310 kilometers an hour in the climb and increasing very, very, very slowly, maintaining about a 20-degree climb angle. This meshes well with its reported climb rate. Now I did use the stat cards on the last one. I'm sure there were some people that went, Mags, the stat cards were always wrong. Not on this plane. They're actually pretty accurate. In real life, the climb rate on this aircraft is 6,000 feet a minute. Now, the climb rate was slightly lower on the stat cards, but the aircraft is also stock. Aircraft in War Thunder only achieve their full historical capabilities when they're fully upgraded. Stock aircraft actually perform below that amount, so the lower climb rate is to be expected. Now, the lowest fuel load on this aircraft is 45 minutes, so it has a hell of a lot of endurance. Let's take a look around the cockpit. It's actually got a really nice looking cockpit. Very detailed across the front, however it appears some of the gauges may not be working, or at least they don't appear to be working at the moment. I am holding angle though, so I'm not expecting a lot of dials to be jumping around. Rearward visibility, if you want to see directly down your tail, you're going to have a bit of bad time. The headrest sort of gets in the way of that, although you do have a good rearwards 45 degree, good low angle view at the front, so sim battle pilots will like this from attacking from the front. It is going to be a pain in the ass seeing exactly what's on your tail though. That big headrest, you can only just see the outer edges of your elevators. What's also nice for sim battle pilots is how high the gun sight sits. It gives you good visibility to the left and right of it. A lot of aircraft have a tendency to have the gun sights mounted right on the nose, so when you're zoomed in you really don't have any left or right vision of what you've got directly on the sights. This gives you a bit of room to look around and see what's coming, so that's nice. So I've been climbing for about 2 minutes, just passing 7,500 feet now. I have been climbing at a non-optimal angle, and well, it's still pretty high up there, so pretty happy with the climb rate. As I'm sure you've noticed at this time, there is no WEP on this aircraft. Just bringing the nose around for a turning test, and turn times seem to be quite reasonable. I did notice a little bit of control stiffening. Just checking the roll rates, and for an aircraft that's so big and so heavy, that isn't bad at all. Level flight acceleration seems to be good too, passing 600 kilometers an hour despite the roll test. So let's throw it around a little bit and see what we can do here. And okay, so sub 600 kilometer an hour flap braking point. That's not particularly great, to be honest. I found most of the jets in the game seem to be able to handle flaps deployed at around 600 quite easily. It is the upper edge of their limit, but they seem to be able to do it fine. This one, well, not so much. Dive acceleration, exceptional. Despite having not very little altitude to dive from there, are easily able to punch it out to 870 kilometers an hour. Take it back nose up. Now this test is for energy retention. I want to see whether or not I can get this aircraft at a higher altitude than what I dove from while maintaining the same speed that I had when I started the dive. So I'm looking at my goal end speed here is around 400 kilometers an hour, and I have to pass about 7,500 feet. Still holding 580, and we're just about to hit 6,000 feet, so this is looking good so far. Energy retention seems to be very, very, very good, which is what I would expect from a twin-engine fighter. That tends to be why they were built in the first place. Still holding. And there's 400 kilometers an hour at 9,600 feet. So yes, go into a dive, gain speed, come out with more altitude at the same speed. Very nice. Okay, so it's looking good so far. Looking like it's going to be a very, very nice plane. And air brakes extended. They are small, seem to be wing mount only. Holding the plane at 440 in level flight with them deployed. So it seemed to work reasonably well. Yep, decelerating. The deceleration doesn't seem to be particularly sharp, so I'm not entirely sure how well these will be used in combat for maneuvering assistance, but they will definitely be useful decelerating the plane out of maximum speed dives. As I said before, it does seem to have control stiffening issues. Again, let's see if we can find the maximum speed of this plane. There's 900. Although it pulled out relatively smoothly there, it is definitely tight. And there we go, overspeed at 940 kilometers an hour in stock format. Gun test, and yeah, they're A&M3 cannons. They spray like shotguns when they're stock, so that's about what I expected from those too. Okay, so let's put this into a burst climb. Let's see exactly how much energy retention it has on a much higher angle of attack. I'm probably at about 30 degrees at the moment. Well, actually, we'll increase that up. We'll take it up to about 60 degrees. 8. There's 9,000 feet. Just touch below. There's 10,000. I'm able to roll it out and get it back into level flight. That's not bad. From max speed to 11,000 feet in under a minute, and still pulling out at about 300 kilometers an hour if you wanted to do it safely. Plane is also quite controllable, even sub 300 kilometers an hour. I felt no sliding or the plane feeling like it was just not wanting to turn due to the low speed. The large control surfaces on this obviously help it for low speed flight. Alright, take it back to max speed and let's see if we can break the wings in a full elevation pull up. So I'm full on the elevators here. And nothing. Okay, let's roll it over and see if we can apply some more G-forces. We're not even getting a G warning doing this. Nothing. Okay, if that's not going to break this plane's wings, I'm not entirely sure this plane's wings can be broken. Alright, so let's point this nose down and we'll see whether or not we can break it again as I go through the conclusions. So how does it feel? Well, it feels a lot like a fat panther. That's the easiest way to describe it, which, well, to be fair, that's exactly what it is. Well, I'm just not sure about its battle rating. If this is not a dev server battle rating, as if this is exactly what they're planning on putting it in as. The F9 F2 has a battle rating of 8.3. This thing has a battle rating of 6.7 on the dev server. And performance-wise, I think these two planes would be able to compete against one another. So, ignoring potential battle rating problems, it feels bloody nice and it's going to be a fun plane to fly. So, there is that. So next up we have the Canberra. Now this was a plane that was noted in real life for being extremely fast, having high acceleration and extremely high manoeuvrability for an aircraft that was designed as a bomber reconnaissance aircraft. It's part of the reason why the Americans picked it up to build the B-57. Now as I said last video, battle rating is 7.3, 420mm Mark V Hispanos with 2,000 rounds of ammunition mounted in a gun pod that looks to be hanging out of the bomb bay down the back section of the aircraft. Now I missed a golden opportunity here. I should have checked to see whether or not you can actually shoot off your own nose wheel on takeoff. Now the aircraft's weight with just gun pod, we're looking at around 10.5 tons, so it's slightly heavier than the Banshee that we checked a moment ago. Fully loaded with bombs, we're looking at about 20 tons. Now, the aircraft's performance is higher than the Canberra that is already in the tree. However, I do suspect, looking at the numbers again, that this is because the stock Canberra does not come equipped with a bomb load. This lack of bomb load makes it between 3 and 9 tons lighter than the one that is already in the tree in 1.43, depending on bomb load. Now, despite being such a large, heavy aircraft, its takeoff run was actually shorter than that of the Banshee, and the climb rate is comparable, able to maintain 424 kilometers an hour at a 12-degree climb angle, and look at that turn time. So we're doing 379 kilometers an hour. We'll put it into a dive. Let's see what its dive acceleration is. And there's 700 kilometers an hour as we begin to level out with only 4,000 feet to drop. And that wasn't an incredibly steep dive. It was also extremely easy to pull out. I'm not entirely sure whether or not control stiffening is modelled on this aircraft at this time. Well, I didn't feel anything noticeable, at least. Cannons are, well, they're Hispanos. They're reasonably accurate, even stock. Good fire rate. And with 2,000 rounds of ammunition, you'll be able to afford to spray in this thing fairly well. Climb test, we started at 800 kilometers an hour at about 400 feet. 600 kilometers an hour as we pass 4,700. Tip it straight over 7G. Stand on the elevators, and I'm not feeling any control stiffening through any of this either, and Jesus Christ, look at this. I'll admit it was about this point that I lost all interest in actually performing flight testing. I just wanted to throw this thing around the sky and see exactly what it would do. For a plane this size, the agility of this aircraft is absolutely insane. I'm not going to hit ground targets in this plane. When I've got it unlocked, I'm going to go and shoot down fighters, because it's going to be very, very good at that. I mean, look at this. It didn't matter how I twisted or turned this plane, I could not hit any higher than 7G, and it was pulling some absolutely mind-boggling turns. So just line it up for a strafing run on some of these allied vehicles sitting around the runway. Gaijin haven't given us enough hostile targets to shoot at, so the blues have got to die. Full elevation pull-up. Into an aileron roll. Invert the plane, continue the aileron roll. Full elevation turn, and if you look down at the ground below, you can see how tightly or how small this turning circle actually is, considering I'm at nearly 600 kilometers an hour while I'm doing it, and I'm not even bringing up the G warnings. Dip back down, some more targets to shoot, 2,000 rounds of ammunition. I'll just spray everywhere. Straight up again. And here's the interesting chest. The negative G pushover. All the Canberras and B-57s currently in game pull negative Gs in them at anywhere above 400 kilometers an hour, their wings will break. Not this one. Straight up. Negative G again. Strikes negative 4G. Not a problem at all. So, conclusions. I dare say this thing's flight model isn't complete. It doesn't feel like it has any control stiffening whatsoever, it has no problems with Gs, it can pull insane turns, and if it goes into the game in its current status, air brakes work nicely, they do increase its manoeuvrability, make it a little bit more agile, do control its speed. Yeah, if it goes in the game in its current state, this thing is going to dominate mid-tier air combat engagements. It's got so much ammunition and it's so manoeuvrable, yet when it wants to be, it can be just as fast as any other aircraft that it can potentially face. I guess what I'm saying is this is the Sea Jesus Mark II. So I'm going to skip straight over Russia here because we've all flown an I-16 before. Let's go have a look at something from Japan. So the J2M3, battle rating 5, era 4. This plane, I've really got a lot of hope for this plane, to be honest. I think it's going to add some much needed fun back into Era 5 battles in Japan. So first things first, the roll test. I described the plane as reminding me a lot of the I-185 from the Russian tree, and the roll rate and the little wobble in the roll under mouse aim remind me a lot of the I-185 as well. I'm talking about the good one at Era 3, not the crap one at Era 4. So, inside the cockpit, well, it has the standard Razorback issue of not having really good rearward visibility. It's not bad, you can see everything off on a slight angle to your rear, just not what's directly behind you or coming up beneath you. Forward visibility is again reasonable, side visibility and side rear visibility is not bad. The railings that make up the cockpit don't get in the way too much. My biggest issue with the cockpit is it's just not very nice to look at. So, current time to climb, well, made 4,400 feet climbing at a 12-degree climb angle for about a minute and a half, so climb rate is reasonable stock. Okay, well I think it's time we start throwing this thing around a little bit. Stand on the elevators, roll at 90 degrees, and just tweaking the aileron as it goes through. Oh, that is a nice roll rate. I take it back, this thing's now reminding me more of the Focke-Wulf 190 than anything else. Just that instant ability to snap roll into whichever angle you want, change direction almost immediately while under elevation. I can't vouch for anyone else, but I really like the play this plane flies. It really suits my personal flight style, so I think I'm going to have an absolute ball with this thing. Dive acceleration is quite good on this aircraft as well. Out past 500, we didn't really have much of an area to dive. We hit 600. There is a little bit of stiffening there, but not too much. Actually, it feels a bit like the KI-84 in terms of its handling. That's in overall handling, of course, and there was just the way the control surfaces stiffen up. I just can't get over that roll rate. I'm going to be a pain in the ass for people to try and kill in this thing. Okay, so let's bring it in low and fast. We'll head over the island, go over and blow up a target and test out the guns. Although the guns are, well, they're pretty much standard 20mm Japanese Type 99 cannons, nothing incredibly special about them. Low altitude energy retention seems quite reasonable for a prop. It's not maintaining ridiculous amounts of speed, but I'm able to keep it up near 500 fairly easily. And yep, just standard issue Japanese 20mm Type 99s. Good ammo load though, so negative G, plane could not give a rat's ass about negative G. Okay, let's pop the flaps and throw it around a little bit and see exactly what it can do. Fucking that's tight. Put it into a roll. Okay. What was that? 310 kilometers an hour, and it ripped off a flap during a roll. That's interesting. That maneuver wasn't any more intensive than anything you would do in a pretty standard dogfight, so I dare say flaps are unusable in the current flight model, or have not been modelled correctly, because they broke off way too easily. So, conclusions on the J2M3. It's got a great climb rate, it's got an amazing roll rate, it's got a spectacular turn time, it has great armament with good ammunition load, and it has some nice fuel options so you can drag out some decent endurance for it. It's just a bloody good aircraft. Those combat flaps are a little worrying, I will say that, but they're not a deal breaker, at least not for me. So, moving on to our next plane. So, last but not least, we have the KI-43-3 Otsu. Now this plane's an interesting beast because, as far as I've been able to tell, it's just a prototype. I've been able to find records of 6 of them being constructed, 4 were airframes only 2 of them were ever completed and flown. Now the giveaway here to that is actually the 20mm cannons. The only KI-43 Type 3 I've been able to find any records for that carried 20mm cannons were in fact prototypes. The cockpit is largely unremarkable. It's just a KI-43 cockpit with a full HD texture. It's very nice. I've always liked the KI-43 cockpit, but there's nothing here you haven't seen before. So the takeoff time on this thing, well, it's pretty much non-existent, like all the KI-43s. Like the ones in real life, these planes actually had to be roped and pegged down when they weren't being used to make sure the wind didn't blow them away, and this particular lightweight is packing a 1230 horsepower engine, so it was going to get off the ground fast. So we're maintaining about 20 degrees nose up, we're just slightly losing speed, maintaining close to around 300, gentle drop. Now this thing does have an incredible climb rate, but it also has an incredible flaw, with that being its advantage. The engine it's using is not turbocharged or supercharged, so once you exceed about 10,000 feet, the climb rate drops to about a quarter of what is listed. And Jesus Christ, that thing just snapped over like an I-16. Oh wow. Okay, I just gotta say it right now, this is probably the aircraft that I'm most interested in this next patch. Just look at this thing. I am going to annoy the shit out of everybody who tries to fight me in this. Now unfortunately you're not going to get much in the way of testing with this plane. The second I saw it snap roll, all semblance of flight testing went straight out the window, and I just wanted to joyride around the sky and just... Okay, things that I noticed doing this. The wings are practically unbreakable. It doesn't seem to matter how many G's you pull, they won't separate from the plane, and as you can see, you can just go nuts with the controls. The plane just doesn't care. Gravity can be damned. It well, you'll drop its speed down below 200 kilometers an hour, it won't stall, it'll continue to turn to the point where it looks like it's drifting red tail style. It does have control stiffening modelled, but only in speeds in excess of 500 kilometers an hour. However, the control stiffening does not seem to impair the plane's ability to actually pull out of high-speed dives. As I was saying a moment ago, above 10,000 feet, the performance of the aircraft just dies. Its top speed drastically falls, its climb rate collapses. It's definitely a sub 10,000 foot aircraft, which makes sense considering the engine's completely naturally aspirated. I also noted once you started getting up to around 7,000 to 8,000 feet, this awesome manoeuvrability this plane has starts to bleed off. It slowly loses responsiveness. This is a machine that you need to take down low to the ground and just punish anybody who ground pounds. Just picture yourself being trapped at low energy at low altitude with one of these things, armed with 300 rounds of 20mm ammunition on your tail. You would never shake it. It won't matter what you do, you will not getting rid of this bloody thing. If it doesn't kill you within the first 10 seconds, it will be because it likes to play with its food before going in for the kill. When I originally did my coverage for this thing, I saw the 4.3 battle rating and I thought this is not going to end well, but I take it back. Kill the target, nose straight up, aileron roll through and screw gravity. We're just going to loop straight back down. Quick touch of the combat flaps. Easily managed to pull out without putting itself too close to the ground. We'll do it again, see how close we can get. Nope, we'll pull out again. I just can't get over this thing. It's awesome. Yak 3P pilots are going to bloody hate it. So, back to all seriousness, what are my conclusions for this aircraft? Well, my conclusions are that patch 1.45 cannot arrive soon enough and bring me my damn Hayabusa. That's what my conclusion to this plane is. It's not incredibly fast, but it doesn't need to be. It's much like the Zero in that category. It climbs incredibly well, but it doesn't have a particularly great dive speed in the long run. It doesn't matter, that's not what it's built for. What it's built for is doing what you see here, just turning around and destroying everything that comes into its area that it's decided that it wants to control. It's basically a battle rating 4.3 area denial weapon. Now keep in mind, all the flight testing you've seen on this video is in realistic mode, so what the bloody hell is this thing going to turn like in arcade? And so we come to the end of my patch 1.45.7.11 test flight coverage of the new aircraft. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get onto any of the new tanks in time. I wasn't able to check out any of the new changes to pre-existing aircraft, so the gun pods on the Twin Mustang or the new... Jesus Christ, no wonder the Horton burns every single time it takes a hit. It's nothing but a friggin' fuel tank with engines. Anyway, I wasn't able to get on to any of the flight model changes, including the boomerangs. I really wanted to. If the test server comes up again and I'm able to get on it, I will go and take a look at these. This was just mainly about the new toys that are coming in. Specifically, we wanted to have a look at the aircraft. So, all in all, it's looking like a pretty good patch so far. I am concerned about the BR of the Banshee. I am concerned about the flight model status of the Canberra. But besides that, everything else in the game looks like it's ticking along just nicely. I'd also like to give a shout out to Gaijin for their recent patch notes. This was one of the first times I've gone through the patch notes for any of the War Thunder test patches, and it's actually been a fairly full and well-detailed patch list, giving most of the details out. There's still a couple of areas that I think could be improved, but overall, not bad. It is nice to see Gaijin taking on the complaints of the community and doing something about it. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.